Single dad planned to spend New Year alone. A female billionaire CEO knocked at midnight. The clock on David's wall showed 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes until the new year. And he was exactly where he'd expected to be, alone. David Martinez pressed his whiskey glass against his forehead, feeling the cold seep through his skin. 36 years old, divorced for 8 months, and spending New Year's Eve in sweatpants while his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, rang in 2026 at her mother's house with her new, fun Uncle Derek. "Here's to rock bottom," he muttered, taking another sip. His phone buzzed. A text from his brother. "Dude, come to the party." "Still time." David didn't reply. He'd spent the last year pretending everything was fine, smiling through the custody hearings, staying strong for Emma, telling everyone he was doing great. Really. Tonight he just wanted to stop pretending. The knock at the door came at exactly midnight. 3 sharp raps that cut through the muffled sound of fireworks exploding across the city. David froze. Nobody knew he was home. He'd ignored all the party invitations, told everyone he was spending New Year's with Emma. Another knock, more urgent. "Mr. Martinez?" David Martinez? A woman's voice, elegant, commanding, with an edge of desperation that didn't match its refinement. David hauled himself off the couch and peered through the peephole. His breath caught. A woman stood in the dimly lit hallway, and she was absolutely stunning. Mid-30s, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair pulled back in an elaborate updo that was starting to come undone. She wore a red designer dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. And she was bleeding? A thin line of blood ran down her temple. David yanked open the door. "Are you okay?" She looked up and he saw her eyes, dark brown, fierce, and fighting back tears. "I need to hide. Right now, please." "What? I don't—" "They're coming." She glanced down the hallway, her composure cracking. "Please, I'll explain everything, but I need to get inside now." Every instinct told David this was insane. But there was genuine terror in her eyes, and that blood was real. He stepped aside. "Come in." She swept past him in a cloud of expensive perfume and barely contained panic. David locked the door behind her, his heart pounding. "Okay," he said, keeping his voice calm. "Who's coming? Do we need to call the police?" "No police." She pressed her palm against her forehead, wincing. "God, this is such a mess." "You're bleeding. Let me get the first aid kit." "There's no time for—" A crash echoed from the stairwell, followed by shouting. The woman's face went white. "Bathroom," David said quickly. "Last door on the left. Lock it and don't make a sound." She stared at him for a half-second, as if trying to decide whether to trust him, then ran. David had just enough time to kick her. Designer clutch purse under the couch before 3 men burst through his door, literally splintering the doorframe as they forced it open. The leader was huge, 6'5", and built like a linebacker. His 2 companions were smaller but equally menacing, all 3 wearing expensive suits that couldn't hide the bulges of shoulder holsters. "Where is she?" the big man demanded in a thick Eastern European accent. David's mouth went dry. "Where's who?" "What the hell, man? You just broke my door." The man grabbed David by his shirt and slammed him against the wall hard enough to rattle his teeth. "Victoria Chen. We saw her come to this floor." "Where is she?" "Victoria Chen." The name sparked something in David's memory. News articles. Business magazines. Victoria Chen, the 34-year-old, billionaire CEO who'd built Chen Technologies from nothing, revolutionizing medical AI and diagnostic software, one of the richest self-made women in America, and she was hiding in his bathroom. "I don't know who that is," David gasped. "I've been alone all night." "Look around. Does it look like I'm having a party?" One of the other men was already searching, tearing through David's modest apartment with brutal efficiency. He checked the bedroom, the kitchen, even yanked open the coat closet. The big man kept David pinned. "You're lying." "I'm not. I don't know what you want, but—" "Bathroom's locked," the searcher called out. David's blood turned to ice. The big man smiled, a terrifying expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Is that so?" He released David and stalked toward the bathroom. David's mind raced. He had no weapon, no plan, no idea what he was doing. But the terror in Victoria Chen's eyes flashed through his memory. Wait, David blurted. That's just... I locked it earlier. Plumbing issues. Whole thing's flooded. Landlord said not to open it until morning or it'll leak everywhere. The excuse was ridiculous, but the big man paused. So open it. I don't have the key. Landlord took it. The man's eyes narrowed. Then he drew a gun, a massive black pistol that looked like it could punch through walls. Then I guess we make our own key. He aimed at the lock. Stop! Victoria's voice rang out clear and commanding. The bathroom door opened and she stepped out with her head held high, blood still trickling down her temple. It's me you want. Leave him alone. He has nothing to do with this. The big man's smile widened. Miss Chen, your father is very worried about you. My father, Victoria said coldly, can go to hell. And you can tell him I said so, Dmitri. I'm afraid I can't do that. He sent us to bring you home, to stop you from making... How did he say it? A catastrophic mistake. I'm 34 years old. I'm not going anywhere with you. Dmitri's expression hardened. Mr. Chen was very clear. You sign the merger documents tonight or there will be consequences. The consequences are his to face. Chen Technologies is my company. I built it. And I'm not selling it so he can make another $1 billion at the, expense of everything I've worked for. So that was it. A family power play probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Miss Chen, Dmitri said with exaggerated patience, your father didn't want to do this the hard way. He nodded to his men. One of them grabbed Victoria's arm. The other pointed his gun at David. She comes with us quietly, Dmitri said, or your new friend here learns what happens to people who interfere in Chen family business. Victoria's composure cracked. Don't hurt him, please. He didn't know who I was. I'll go with you, just... No, David heard himself say. Everyone turned to stare at him. No, Dmitri repeated as if he'd misheard. David had no idea what he was doing. He was a middle school history teacher, not an action hero. But he was so tired of feeling helpless, of watching bad things happen and doing nothing. 8 months of watching his marriage fall apart, of losing his daughter half the time, of feeling like life was something that happened to him rather than something he controlled. You're not taking her, David said, his voice steadier than he felt. This is my home. Get out. Dmitri laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. You have courage. Stupid courage, but courage. He raised his gun, pointing it directly at David's chest. Unfortunately, courage doesn't stop bullets. Neither does money stop witnesses, David said, pulling his phone from his pocket. The screen showed a video call in progress. Hi, Mom, are you getting all this? He turned the phone around. On the screen, his mother's face was visible, eyes wide with shock. David, what? Mom, did you catch all that? The threats, the breaking and entering, the guns? Make sure you save the recording before you hang up and call 911. It was a bluff. He'd actually just opened the camera app and held it at an angle that looked like a video call. But in the dim lighting, with panic setting in, Dmitri couldn't tell the difference. The big man's face went from confident to uncertain. You're bluffing. Am I? David kept the phone steady. Want to find out? Because I'm pretty sure kidnapping, breaking and entering, and assault with a deadly weapon will land you in prison for a very long time. And something tells me Victoria's father doesn't want this all over the news. Dmitri stared at him, gun still raised, the moment stretched out taut as a wire. Then he lowered the weapon. This isn't over, he said to Victoria. Your father will expect you at the estate by morning. If you don't come next time, we won't be so polite. He gestured to his men and they filed out, leaving David's splintered door hanging open. The moment they were gone, David's legs nearly gave out. He grabbed the back of the couch for support, his hands shaking. Oh my God, he breathed. Oh my God, I can't believe that worked. Victoria was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. You just bluffed 3 armed men with a fake phone call? Apparently. She started laughing, slightly hysterical laughter that suggested she was as shocked as he was. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Definitely stupid, David said, his own nervous laughter bubbling up. I thought I was about to die. Victoria crossed the room in 3 quick strides and threw her arms around him. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. David stood frozen for a moment, then carefully hugged her back. She was trembling. You're safe now, he said, though he had no idea if that was true. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Her makeup was smudged, her hair was falling down, and the cut on her temple had started bleeding again. She looked nothing like the polished CEO from magazine covers. She looked real. I'm Victoria, she said, but I guess you figured that out. David, and yeah, the billionaire CEO thing kind of gave it away. He grabbed his first aid kit. Sit down. Let me look at that cut. As he cleaned the wound, superficial, thankfully, Victoria explained. Her father, Richard Chen, had started the company decades ago with medical supply imports. Victoria had transformed it into a tech giant, but the company's stock was still split between them. He wanted to sell to a massive Chinese conglomerate for $3 billion. She wanted to keep the company independent and American-owned. He's been pressuring me for months, Victoria said. Tonight was supposed to be the signing dinner. I finally told him I'd never sell. Walked out and his security team chased me. I ran into the first apartment building I saw, picked a random floor and knocked on your door. Lucky me, David said, applying a butterfly bandage. Lucky me, Victoria corrected. You saved my life. Most people would have slammed the door. Yeah, well, I guess I needed to do something brave. Been a while. Their eyes met and David felt something shift, a connection. Unexpected and electric. Done, he said, stepping back. You should probably get out of here, though. Find somewhere safe. If they come back, they won't, not tonight. Victoria stood, smoothing her dress. My father will be furious, but he's not stupid. Too much attention now would raise questions he doesn't want raised. She hesitated. But you're right. I can't go back to my penthouse. He'll have people waiting. Hotel?
He knows all my usual places.
His men will be watching. She bit her lip. I know this is crazy, but could I stay here? Just tonight? I'll pay for your door, for everything. I just need somewhere he wouldn't think to look. David should have said no. This was insane. Harboring a fugitive billionaire from her own father's goons? But when he looked at Victoria, he didn't see a CEO or a fortune. He saw someone scared and alone on New Year's Eve, same as him. Yeah, he heard himself say. You can take the bedroom. I'll sleep on the couch. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. Again, I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Let's start with making it through the night. They stayed up until dawn talking. Victoria told him about building her company, about the loneliness at the top, about sacrificing relationships and personal life for success. David told her about his divorce, about missing Emma, about feeling like he'd lost himself somewhere along the way. You know what's funny? Victoria said around 4 a.m., curled up on one end of his couch while he sat on the other. I have everything people dream of. Money, success, recognition, and I've never felt more trapped. And I have almost nothing, David replied. Lost my wife, see my daughter half the time. Teach middle school for barely enough to pay rent. But right now, talking to you, this is the most alive I've felt in months. Victoria smiled, a real smile, soft and genuine. Maybe we both needed tonight. Maybe. As the sun rose on the first day of 2026, Victoria made a decision. She called her lawyer, her board members, and her father in that order. By noon, she'd arranged an emergency board meeting. By evening, she'd maneuvered her father out of his controlling position and secured full control of Chen Technologies. But she didn't forget David. 3 days later, a construction crew showed up at his apartment to repair the door and accidentally remodeled his entire kitchen while they were at it. Week after that, Victoria appeared at his door again, this time by choice. Dinner? She asked. Somewhere public, no hiding. Just 2 people who maybe want to get to know each other better? David grinned. I'd like that. It wasn't a fairy tale. Victoria still had to fight battles with investors and competitors. David still struggled with custody arrangements and his ex-wife's hostility. but they faced their challenges together, finding in each other something neither expected to find. Someone real. On New Year's Eve 2027, David stood in his newly renovated apartment, their apartment now, watching fireworks with Victoria's arms around him and Emma asleep in the next room. "Thank you for opening the door," Victoria whispered. "Thank you for knocking," David replied. And they kissed as midnight struck, beginning their third year together, a year that started with fear, but transformed into something neither of them had dared to hope for. Love, partnership, home. Sometimes the best things in life come from the unexpected knocks, the crazy chances, the moments when you choose to be brave even when you're terrified. David Martinez had planned to spend New Year's alone. Instead, he found everything he'd been missing: